Alright, so we have been discussing economics optional paper 2 and part 2 Indian economy before 1947 questions, and one of the question is discuss the development of jute industry and the main problems faced by jute industry in the pre-independent India. So in order to elaborate upon this question, we will try to analyze the entire life cycle of jute industry starting from 17th century in Bengal, or you can say 18th century in Bengal, and World War One, World War Two, and then we shall go on to discuss the most prominent problems faced by the jute industry. So it is the second most important textile industry in India. First is cotton, and now most of the mills are located along Hooghly in Bengal. See, from the beginning to this day, the industry is highly localized, and being localized means it is situated near the source of its raw material. It also becomes very important for you to see different regions which are premier producers of jute in India. See, on the top being West Bengal, then Bihar, Odisha, Assam, and Andhra Pradesh. In order to remember it with a kind of flow, you can with a kind of flow according to the production variables, you can use an acronym like WB and OAA, with bag of affordability and accessibility. Now this variable, now this abbreviation will help you remember this, as bag is the premier product, jute bag is the premier product produced in the jute industry, and it is affordable, of course it is accessible, and it is environmental friendly, and that is why we keep on propagating about it. Now, Assam, Bihar, Odisha, and Andhra Pradesh, all of these states are also located on the eastern coast, so you can clearly map out in your brain that which are the jute producing regions if you are asked a question upon this. Initially, it was a cottage industry of Bengal in 1750s, and then in 1854, suddenly the demand for jute went up. This happened because of the German War in 1954. So Russia had two of the substitutes for Indian jute, which began to be not supplied due to the German War, and they were raw flax. See, flex always is a substitute for jute. You should keep this in mind. And another was hemp, HEMP. So that is why the demand went up in 1880s. Primarily, there was no particular specified reason for the increase in demand. It was only because of the people's likingness for jute which increased. Though aristocracy never preferred jute bags or these products, they preferred eloquently built products. Like you can see the industry of jute. 1 second. Here it is. So this is how jute products are manufactured. They are not at all aesthetic for the aristocracy, but still the demand considerably increased during this period due to the intervention of European and Scottish managers. So it is very important to remember these certain time periods wherein the jute industry boomed, and the most important of them being the World War One. India gained a monopoly in jute production during World War One, 1914s. Why was this? Because see, World War One provided a great stimulus due to its very wide demand for gunny cloth and stand and food grain storing materials. So gunny cloth basically stores sand and food grains. So a very high demand for these products. Storage bags was enhanced by faster and steady rate of supplies from Indian markets. So this also points out to the situation of Indian economy in international economics at that time. Trade barriers were considerably limited to supply the jute to the world market. But post-war, we see that the demand considerably reduced, and as the demand reduced, the prices increased, and when the prices increased, the demand reduced. The world also witnessed a Great Depression, not only because of jute prices, of course, but then the Great Depression accompanied the fall in the production and the export of jute. Great Depression of 1929s. Alright, now we'll see the evolution of Indian Jute Mill Association. This is also very simple for regulating production and for limiting output. Indian Jute Mill Association was established. Now, why will someone regulate the? Why will someone limit the output of jute, or why will someone limit the labor absorbing capacity of this industry? This was primarily because of the exploitation which persisted during that time on raw jute. And then the harvest of raw jute was also subsequently limited by the Indian Jute Mills Association, and all jute mills agreed to sell 20% of the looms to restrict their production. And then, see, this was in 1884. You should relate it with like this. In 1884, when the demand was also average, when it was high in 1850s, and then in 1884 it was restricted, and then a boom occurred in 1914, and now we come to 1939, World War II. So new prospects for jute industry appeared. Now, what are the new prospects of jute industry? Again, there were wartime supplies, which the jute industry was capable of doing. But and tremendous increase in the output was also witnessed. But when Japan entered the World War Two in 1914, Japan entered the World War II. A steep rise in shipping charges were witnessed, and the jute mills came within the danger zone with the occupation of many southeast regions by Japan. Many southeast, you can say South Asia and Northeast India regions were in under great threat. So that is the reason most of the economists and most of the analysis करने वाला लोग quote for the decline of the jute industry during this time. See, the success the jute industry has achieved from time to time is enormous, because it has overcome difficulties, it has overcome fluctuating demand, it has overcome overproduction, it has overcome most of the difficulties a sovereign industry does. And it is important for you not only to listen to this but also quote this in your answers. After independence, there were varied problems faced by the jute industry, as we have already discussed. The Bangladesh wala issue, the Bangladesh took over a lot of area of jute, and that is why the demand, not only the demand but also the production of jute decreased. The demand for jute bags also decreased after independence, not because there were no wars, but because, as I said, aristocracy prefers aesthetic things, and jute primarily is a, you can say, inferior product in terms of carrying. Like, we keep buffer stock in jute bags, but we do not usually see them being sold in malls. In fact, most of the you can say bigger shops and bigger premises for supplying items use their own kinds of invented bags, which are usually made of cotton. And sometimes, see, these days we are witnessing an increase in the awareness and an increase in the environmental friendliness, so we might witness a lot of jute products in the markets. But before this, when you see the era of 20th century, when you see the era of 19th century, it was all considered as a minority and an inferior product. It is very important but to incorporate this kind of item in the ecosystem, because it not only harms the already prevailing unequal social structure, because if it is used by everyone, it also increases the environmental friendliness and the restabilizing capacity of the environment. Now we shall quickly discuss the problems which have been faced by the jute industry. See, these are the problems or the challenges faced. We have already discussed this: inadequate branding and marketing of jute, and inadequate connection with high value markets of the world like USA, European Union, etc. One second. Yeah, the challenges and competition from jute industry of Bangladesh. As I have already told you, 75% of the former Bengal jute industry went to Bangladesh. Jute industry continues to face competition from synthetic fibers. It also faces competition from other kinds of um, technically and, you can say, economically developed firms, because it makes use of obsolete machinery, as you can observe from this particular image. Another problem is that jute firms are smaller in size. That's it. Thank you.